You know, while the economic troubles of today can rip families apart, it can also provide invaluable lessons our children and grandchildren will carry for decades.
Steve Brown has extensive expertise in family and relationship counseling and is the program director for Families First, a nonprofit human service agency that has served the metro Atlanta area for more than 100 years. Steve, thanks so much for joining us today. Your organization certainly has a track record of being involved in families. How did Families First get started?
Well, we started as an orphanage, an African-American orphanage for girls in the 1880s, and began to ally with other agencies throughout the South, headquartered around Atlanta initially, and expanded through that. You know, today we offer group homes, foster care, educational programs for children, after-school programs, parenting programs, extensive network of counselors that are available on a sliding scale based on ability to afford. We also do employee assistance programs where we go right into the workplace and provide human services.
One of the things that brought you on our radar was this idea that we're going through some tough times as a country, and families, many families are. Not everybody has lost a job, but there's a palpable feeling in the air of an instability, and we were just thinking about how often you don't want to go through a time like that could be a learning experience as a family and not glean something from it. What could families do during this time to learn?
You know, I think one thing is to recognize the level of stress that we have been suffering under. I've heard this typified. Today you turn on the news and it's like the second week after 9/11 watching the news, only this has been going on for 6 months, and it's global.
Yes.
You know, I think the other thing for people at work is often they feel insecure in their job. What they'll do is start looking out for alternative employments, and that's not as available as it is, and even geographically, this is a global disaster, if you will, around the finances and employment, and really there's a feeling that is palpable that there's nowhere to turn at this time. So the stress levels are very high. I think parents, it's very important for them to realize that they are the architects and the leaders of their family at this stage, and that how they handle things is being constantly observed by their children, no matter what the age.
And with the history that your organization has, you have watched families and tracked them during good times and during bad times. What are some of the things that you begin to see that happen in families under this kind of stress? You know, whether it's economic stress or other stresses that families go through. What happens to the dynamic of the family, and how does it affect the children especially?
Well, it certainly can affect the children gravely. If a family is fractured, if their communication is broken down, if there's problems in the primary relationship, the marriage or the parental relationships there, certainly pressure increases those fissures. At the same time, for every crisis, there's an opportunity. I think one lesson that's been driven home really in the last 10 years with our relationship with our jobs is that the home should be the refuge, and the family is the primary unit at home. So I think turning that attention back to who we have and what our true support system is.
But many times, when you're in troubling times or uncertain times, mom and dad can feel like they need to insulate the children from it, and if they don't talk about it, it doesn't really exist. Is that philosophy effective?
No, I don't believe so at all. Our primary job as parents is to train our children how to cope with life, and guess what? This is certainly part of life, and we've been through these cycles before. Our grandparents went through it in the 30s, you know, and survived and continued to regale us with tales of what it was like back then.
I was just talking with my dad on the phone yesterday, and again he was recanting, you know, recalling the story of the Depression and how my grandparents walked away from everything in Oklahoma and started a new life, and just talking about the difficult times. And in his generation, he's looking at where we are now, and he's very concerned of the impact that it has on families.
Absolutely. And families as a unit coalesced and moved. When you read Grapes of Wrath, that was a
Right.
family. The key part was a family that kept together no matter what during that migration. And it's also a nice opportunity, by the way, and something we probably haven't done for a long time in our families, and tapping into the resource of our older generations and learning from them again. They've been through something that we're just starting to experience. And,
So tapping
and they
into
survived
mom
it.
and dad, grandma and grandpa right
Grandma
now
and
would
grandpa,
be a good thing.
grandpa, you know, whoever it may be. Yeah, but tapping in from our elders. And getting, I mean, you talk about traditional family values,
Yeah.
that's one that's been lost. And it's imperative that we, I think, be as honest as we can be with our own children. They're observing us no matter what. They're constantly watching and learning from us. So I think it works best when we take the responsibility to teach them what we feel we need to teach them.
And having a narrative, I think the idea of bringing grandma and grandpa in to tell the family story, or just the story that families make it. If it's not your own family, a grandma and grandpa that's been through it, to come in and talk
Right.
about,
Absolutely.
you know, tell us about what it was like. I mean, you're still here, didn't kill you, you know, you survived it. And yet, financially, is this also a good time to look at the principles, kind of how we got here, and use that educationally with the kids?
Yeah, I think all too often one thing that happens is people wait until there's a crisis before they begin to do the mitigating of that crisis. And really, you know, if you feel secure in your job today, now's the time to have family meetings, to have open discussions, to begin to make some plans on how to better prepare for any eventuality. Don't wait until you know, it's already a crisis and say, gee, we just lost your college education, I think we need to talk. You know, that's not a real good time, but start making those plans now and let the kids participate in it.
Now, one of the things that does happen in stressful times, you know, people perhaps, you know, there's divorce, an increase in drinking, alcohol, maybe even drug use, stresses on the home. And you say that these are times when even generational cycles can begin that then take generations to overcome. What are some things that families can do to deal with and cope with those wrong coping mechanisms during times of crisis?
Well, one thing for parents to take care of themselves first. Lifeguards know that you better be stable in the water before you reach out to save somebody, or else you'll be pulled down. They need to seek counseling, coaching, clergy, you know, other support mechanisms themselves. Family meetings, I think, are extremely important here. People who are open about their feelings, their experiences, have nothing to hide and don't insulate, are more resilient for dealing with this type of thing, and raise kids that learn those skills too and can apply them when they're adults.
What kind of resources are available in the community at large? I know you're in the Atlanta area and been here a long time. Is that generalizable? What do people across the country have at their disposal?
I would say Google Family Services for your region, and a number of things will come up. There's also the clergy has made and faith-based organizations, no matter what the denomination, have made great strides in providing support and coaching and assistance for families as well. And check that out through your church, community centers, or for cultural groups within their community centers too.
And don't be afraid to reach out. I think a lot of times families, you know, there's shame in reaching out and saying we have some issues that we need to work through, but better to work through them during a difficult time and come out a stronger family in the end than to try to hide the challenges you're dealing with.
Yes,
So.
and even though crisis isn't the best time to enter a situation to do counseling, you're uniquely equipped, and organizations are, to handle trauma counseling, crisis counseling, things like that. So if it's above you feel like you're going underwater, there is hope. FamilyFirst.org is your website. Of course, as you mentioned, you can go to Google and just put in family services and probably come up with those as well. But thank you for
Steve,
coming
thank
in,
you
Steve,
for coming
and for
and
the
being
work
with
you
us
do
and
as
sharing
well.
all the great things that your organization does. Great impact here in the Atlanta area over the years.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right. Well, when we come back, we'll continue our look at students who are changing their world when we talk with Emily Blake. Stay with us.